Welcome to Roadmap, Autotrader UK's Product and Tech Podcast. So, to help us roll through the week, we've got two of our tech lead maestros, I think that's how you pronounce it, Ryan and Stapes, to talk all things front-end devy. So, let's just go with a little intro. Obviously, Stapes, that isn't your real name, but a little intro, who you are, how you got here, and then we'll crack on. So you can kick off, Stapes.
Yeah, so Stapes isn't my name. My name's Tom. There's lots of Toms in the business. My last name's Stapleton. So everyone calls me Stapes. So, yeah.
And you are a...
tech lead at Autotrader.
Okay.
I've been here just over 8 years.
Oh, cool. Good to know. Good to know. What about you, Rye?
He's got to legally change his name now because I can't call him Tom. Never called him Tom.
Yeah, see, I was thinking this morning, do I call you Thomas? 'Cause obviously you are Thomas Stapleton. But I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever heard anyone call you Thomas. And I've not heard anyone call you Tom either.
Stapleton.
Yeah.
That's
Stapinator.
Yeah, that's it.
So, Rye, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a
Full
tech
title,
lead.
please. Full name with any middle names as well.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah,
Ryan Paul Bendel. Yeah,
DOB.
very formal. Yeah, my passport number as well.
No.
I'm a tech lead on the retailer side, and I've been here for about 15 plus years now.
15, but
Yeah.
man. So, how long have you been at Stapes?
Just over 8.
So combined 23 years?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. So, right, to get ball rolling, so you're both front-end tech leads, but aren't you, I think we were chatting about this, aren't you the first of two? Or have we had front-end tech leads before at AT?
I think we were. I think there was a lot of discussion originally around what our title would be when we started leaning into front end being more tech lead role. So yeah, I think we were maybe the first two, if not. There's only 4 of us in the business, so it was very quickly after, if not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that traditionally it's tech leads. It's kind of always been a back end role.
Right.
But I think over the past 5 years, the lines between front end and back end have blurred quite a lot. You know, we got back end devs doing front end people doing bits of back end, and the front ends have got a lot bigger and more complex than they used to be. So I think the role kind of recognises where front end as a discipline is today, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, I think for a lot of years, I think you were doing the role. And then progression from principal usually goes into tech lead, but for front end it wasn't there. So I think you would kind of doing that anyway. But in consumer, so we'll probably get onto that later. But in consumer, I don't think there was a front end tech lead, but there's a few of us now.
Right. Honestly, I didn't realise that until we were talking about it. I knew we talked about, like, because us three catch up randomly on random things, usually laughing about some of Benny Mac's randomness that he does.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was but I remember we were talking about like aspirations of tech lead and the direction of where front end was going. But so how long have you two been now tech leads? Is it in the last couple of years? Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been maybe
officially
year
probably
and a half, 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, officially 2 years. But as I say, I think I was doing the role a year before that.
Yeah.
And then Ryan, you've been doing it for several years, I imagine.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like much has changed, to be honest. Like maybe more meetings.
Yeah.
And
what's it like with the other tech leads? Is it like everyone's like, yeah, we're all tech leads, or is it like, yeah, we're the front end tech leads? Is it like a little bit of a crew, or are you like in competition with each other? Like you try and avoid each other at all costs.
So I wouldn't say I'm a front end tech lead. I'd just say I'm a tech lead.
Right.
I think front end is just where my expertise is, but we've had back end tech leads leading front end projects before.
Yeah.
So I think a tech lead should be able to, with the right team and the right people with the right skills, should be able to deliver different types of projects. So I wouldn't call myself a front end tech lead. I just call myself a tech lead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think when you get to sort of principal and tech lead, it's less about your engineering ability and it's a lot about leading projects and people and getting the most out of teams and delivering things. So I think, we don't think of ourselves really as front enders anymore, even though, like Stapes has said, it's our speciality.
Yeah.
We do know bits of the other parts of the stack, so we dip into that, and if not, we find someone else who knows better than we do.
See, in my mind, I had it like, we got a tech lead meet up, and you two and the others were sat in one corner, and the rest were sat in the other.
Yeah, with all four of us, there's like fending off 30 or whatever. Yeah.
But it's not like that.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's actually quite good because then we go to these tech lead meetings and we've got different perspectives on the right way to approach things. So it's not all coming from traditional back-end devs. It's, front and back end come to a decision together, I think, and it works really well.
So domain spaces, you both work in 18 different tech SaaS domain spaces. So you're much more on the retailer side, right? And you're much more on the consumer.
Yeah.
So what are the differences? Is there, and we talked about this in other podcasts, like from a design system perspective and the different needs of the users, but like from a engineering perspective, is there distinction between the two, or what are the distinctions between the two?
So when we talk about consumer, we mean the Autotrader website, so www.autotrader.co.uk.
Yeah, nice plug there. www.
Yeah. So that's consumer.
So that's me buying a car, selling a car, whatever.
Yeah. Trade, buying a car, building a deal, browsing, saving, that sort of thing on the website.
Yeah, and the retailer side is more for obviously the retailers, but it's Dealer Portal's the app that I look after, and that's more about a retailer doing all the jobs for his dealership. So advertising stock, checking leads, retail checking things, doing valuations, all that kind of stuff. So it's much more of a sort of almost like a CMS tool, and it's more about getting a data entry, doing a job than necessarily, as Stapes said, the Autotrader side is more about a buying journey for a consumer out there who you almost want to hold the hand through that journey, where a retailer, you can approach things differently even with wording because they're in the industry. You don't need to necessarily explain every little acronym.
Yeah.
So they tend to want to do jobs in bulk. And it's a very different stack that we've got. The consumer side is React, the retailer side is Angular, and then even our app setups are slightly different. Like the consumer side is lots of single page applications. The retailer side, we've got a mono repo to manage everything. But I've always found that them being different, where people might say, "Oh, we should all be on the same tech," it's actually it's a really good thing because it gives people learning opportunities. I want to go and learn a bit of React. I could go over to Stapes' side and sit with somebody and pair with them. And it gives you a bit more room to sort of experiment, I think, with tech, where if you're all doing the same thing constantly, it would be harder to change. Where, because retailer and consumer are quite different, it gives us a little bit of scope to experiment, I think.
So say I was applying tomorrow, not that I'm going to apply as a front-end engineer because I'm pretty whack with anything like that, but say I was, like, how do you, when people are coming in, is it based on their experience of technology that you say, actually, we're going to put you into the retailer side or we're going to put you into the consumer side? Or do you find that maybe I'm more junior in my career and coming in through grad scheme or apprentice scheme, like where do you go into one or the other and then stay there for a while, or do you feel that people do cross pollinate across the two areas?
I think it depends on where the opportunity is. So where's the right place for them to go? What their experience is. So if you've got someone who's got a load of experience in Angular, and they want to keep working on that, let's say they want to work on web applications as well, so it's the right tool for the job. So Angular is the right tool for a web application, so that's the right tool for the job for retailer side. For us, Angular is probably a bit too heavyweight for a consumer website. So I think it's a mixture of things, but I remember when I applied and I joined, it was very much I want to work on the consumer website because I come from e-commerce, so I want to be where the users are. And I guess the main distinction between trade and consumer is different actors. So when I say actors, I mean the people actually using the thing. So you've got from the trade side, you've got people who pay for the software and or actually pay themselves to use it. Consumers are just everyday people browsing, looking for the next vehicle.
So it's interesting, like you said, like that's something you wanted to work on, because like in my old job, it was all logistics software. I loved it, actually. It was really, really interesting. But thinking of those actors, it was people like running the warehouse and things like that. So is that something, right, because you've worked predominantly in trade, is that something that you go, I really wanted to work on the trade side, or has you found that sort of enjoyment, and like you talked about Stapes, you want to work on the consumer front end? How did you get into the trade side? Was that like a conscious decision?
No, not really. It felt quite natural. When I joined in what was a production team at the time, and that was building little individual dealer websites, that they could, like the old stock list, that sort of thing. And it was like part support roles, part building the websites.
Yeah.
And then an opportunity came up to work in what was called Razor back in the day, or dealer websites these days, which is a CMS application. So I think I've just followed the path of just knowing sort of the domain of retailers more than the consumers. And then Dealer Portal, there was an opportunity there, so I moved to there probably 8 years ago, maybe now, and I've been there ever since. And it changes so much, like not just our applications and our products, but the front end space changes like yearly. Like there's another 3 frameworks that come out or something. So it's always like quite interesting and exciting. So you never sort of get bored in your role, I don't think. And we move really quickly here. So, there's almost no time to stop and think, oh, I wish I was learning something else, because you've already got 100 things in front of you.
So I've always wanted to ask this, and I know it's like, did you make, because your paths have been different, like, when did you make the decision, like, I want to be a front-end dev? Was that something like you go out? Because like my one was, I didn't know what a dev was. Like when I went from uni into skateboard shopping to then rocked up at some firm and ended up being a developer 7 years, it wasn't something I planned, but then I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Is like, were you like, I want to be front end dev, or I want to work on websites? So like, what was the thing that drew you in, and then where was the decision point to say, I'm going to be a front end dev? Like, that's where I want to apply my craft.
Mine stems back to secondary school. So I had a really good teacher. Still remember their names today because they're that influential, but Mr. Lou, Alan Lou, who taught me how to write HTML and CSS.
Right.
And this is when I was probably 14, 15, so GCSE.
Yeah.
Did really well at it, enjoyed it, did it at sixth form, did it at university, web application development. Had a really good lecturer, David Walsh. Did really well at uni, and then got a job out of that, and so I've had a very sort of just did it at school.
Yeah, no,
enjoyed it. So it's very early on. I didn't sort of,
because we're doing this thing with T-levels kids, and they're like 16, 17, and it was funny because they got showed like how to do some of the front end stuff in part of the module we're running with them, and you could see them like going, oh, this is brilliant, because I hadn't really done a lot of it, and actually getting this little web app up, and like, look, I can click here and I get this valuation, and I get an image up, and then I've resized the image, and they were absolutely buzzing because they could touch and feel it and show it. Mm-hmm. So I could sort of get how you can get addicted to it. But what about you, Ryan? Was it similar? Was it yours?
Yeah, I think I'm biased, of course, but I think the front end space is probably the most exciting in an engineering role, because you're in between the back end that gives you the data or whatever, and the designers who creating the UI visually, and you kind of building that, and so you work with these great people who are doing these things, but you're kind of creating something that you can interact with, and it's very visual. And I did a lot of 3D stuff back in uni days, so I've got kind of like a little bit of like a design background in some ways, so I'm quite creative. So it was a good middle ground where engineering from a back end point of view didn't interest me as much as being able to quickly spin up a website at the time. So I found it more interesting.
Is it that bit where you can like, because there's 2 bits there in it, you're talking about like the interface between 2 other disciplines where it's really good, but also the touch and feel, like you can very quickly touch and feel something. Is it that bit where you can see it out there, whereas not necessarily you can see the inner workings of the app, because it's obviously it's hidden?
I think it's you don't have to write, well, I mean, back probably when we were learning, you didn't have to write a lot of code to get something visual and interactive. So I show my age now, but I used to write action script to Flash games just in my spare time as a teenager.
These words don't mean anything.
So
to
it's
me, but anyway,
very old.
Sounds pretty cool.
Very old technology, but you could build like interactive games really quickly.
Well, like Manic Miner type stuff. When that's probably
Yeah,
before
like-
your day.
like-
Probably not before mine.
But yeah, doing that, and then I think for me, I did delve into bits of back end because that would power the front end. I always wanted to know like how do popular websites work. So at uni, I'd try and write a Facebook replica. I wanted to know how that works. How do you create a like button? How do you create posts? How do you do sign in? How do you do that stuff? And I went to uni to do that, to learn that stuff, and I enjoyed it. So I think I do like doing bits of back end stuff, but it's always to power the front end.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Do you think there's any misconceptions around like front end devs?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know, because we said we go totally off pace because we didn't do
Yeah.
any prep.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I'm too busy. We've got an incident.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, all right, cool. We'll just you'll let me roll with it. But is there? I mean, I'm not like so. Again, maybe it's a bit slightly different question because that's a bit cruel actually. So, is there a bit where, like, so again, coming in, I'm new. What are the things if you're going to be a really good front end dev? What are the things you got to really care about? Or like be really interested in? Is the things you go, if someone's not interested in these things, are they really have they really got the passion for being a front end dev?
I think it's the craft. It is a craft. It's if you've got to enjoy it. I don't think you can just do this as a job. You've got to get some enjoyment out of what you do day to day, and that's probably the same for everything.
Yeah.
But front end's a big umbrella, and the advice I'd give to anyone is try and find a specialism in that umbrella. Accessibility is a good one. It could be TypeScript, JavaScript, but getting really good at that craft of writing good functional code. It could even be getting really good at building reusable components, so getting modular, reusable code. So design system, you need that in any design system. Thinking about scalability. But yeah, it's a big umbrella front end. So I'd always recommend try everything within that umbrella, but I'd recommend anyone to specialize in something.
So do you think that's a misconception that it's narrow rather than broad? I mean, maybe this is like because of I've worked with a few front end devs over my time, but not loads and loads. Is it that people then sort of get pigeonholed like by the non-engineering community? Would you think that's fair?
I think there's
Because when you talked about that breadth there, I'm like, I didn't consider any of that.
I think there's a thing around engineering practices. I think going back 10 years, but it's not the same anymore, as you mentioned before. Like back-end developers do front-end code, front-end developers will do back-end code. I think the lines are blurred more than ever before.
And is that industry-wide or is that here?
I think
know
so.
what I mean?
I think so. I think we've blurred the lines more, and it's good. We've recently started picking up the web journeys, and the teams own the apps journeys now as well. So my team look after consumer flow called Deal Builder, and we own the web and the apps implementation of that.
Right. And did you see, like from your perspective, like if you went back 5-10 years, probably when you're already established and Stapes is just coming into the fold, could you see like where we are today? Was that the direction already starting to spawn out, or is it been something more recent, this move into like the lines blurring?
Yeah, I'd say more within the past 5 years now. Some of these more TypeScript heavy frameworks are around. It's a lot more friendly for back-end devs to sort of get their head around. Like when I started and it was just basic CSS and HTML, you could argue that the front end was very easy. So people probably had slightly different perceptions of what being a front-end dev was.
Yeah.
But that's changed a lot. And just going back to your question about what I'd say to somebody who was starting as a front-end dev or looking to be a front-end dev, I'd say you've got to be comfortable knowing that you'll never know everything with front end, especially because it changes so often and so much to it.
Yeah.
Like Stapes says, picking a specialism is the best thing you do. Find something you enjoy, because it's anyone who says, I know everything about front end, you know, is lying. It's just not possible for somebody to know everything. You can be quick at picking things up, don't get me wrong, but you could never know everything, because it's a massive field and it's changed so much. I think we're still quite a young industry. I guess not industry is probably not the right word, but front end is quite a young discipline,
right,
in comparison to like back end dev. You know, I think when websites started was like 20 years ago or something.
Yeah.
There'd already been tons of back end.
Well, that was it, because I
work
think that's
before
why
that.
I sort of in my head, back end dev makes more sense in my head, because it was before web apps. It was like 1997, and it was like green screen stuff, and I sort of like get that world. So this is where it's a bit where like I've done work in like back in Poland with like Matt Savage and stuff, and it's like it's really interesting sitting next to people, but it's still the bit where like until you start explaining it, I'm like, oh right,
Yeah,
didn't realise you got involved in all that.
yeah.
So it's even like the whole RTDS, like the design systems. Like I didn't realise how until like last year we started talking about it, how like really tied in with the designers, how that has to be done together. It can't be done like in isolation, and how that is a core bit of your roles to be heavily involved in that.
That's what makes it a system, really. It isn't just devs throwing a load of reusable code somewhere. It's, you know, it's a collaborative thing between design, product as well, QAs. We get them involved early to make sure that the things we're building are accessible, all that kind of stuff. And I think that, you know, it's a bit of a buzzword over the past probably 5 years or so, is a design system. You know, we've done those sort of things before, whether we call them pattern libraries or component libraries or whatever they were called. But the actual collaborative part of it is the new part, really. We never did that very well. I don't think previously. It was more of a dev thing that we consciously thought, oh, hang on, we're repeating ourselves 5 times here with this code. Let's create something shared that we can all reuse. But we didn't really, you know, talk to design about it or anything like that. But actually having documentation and building a design system which works for everybody that they can use and go and look at, it doesn't have to be just a dev to say, like, this is the component, this is what it does, this is what it looks like, this is how you use it. That's a fairly recent thing. And I know, like, we've got 2 different design systems, obviously, because also, even though we are the same business, we've got completely different customers, so they have to look very different. We're doing different jobs. And I think, like, consumer side, I think your users are predominantly mobile, I think.
Yeah.
Where on the retailer side, I think only 10% are mobile users.
Nice.
So we have to build and focus on different things slightly. Like Stapes has to worry about SEO and all that stuff because it's a public-facing website. Ours is behind a login, so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is great. But then also it's a data entry platform, so you've got to build stuff that responds quickly and you can do things in bulk. You know, the sort of things that maybe a consumer doesn't care about, but a retailer does. So we've got very different, you know, like concerns, I guess, and that's why our design system is very different. Other than visually they're different, they also need to do different things.
Yeah. And when you're like on the internet or doing jobs on the internet, whatever you're doing, is it like from your perspective, you look at something and go, oh, that's brilliant, I love the way they've done that, because it gets you out of bed? Because I'm just thinking, like, for me, you go onto, when you have to, onto the gov.uk and do something. I quite like that, dead simple navigation. It's not fancy. But then I'll go on to like Airbnb or Vinted or whatever, and I'm thinking consumer, and I really like those applications. Yeah. So it's a bit where you look at it from your different perspectives as tech leads and what you're interested in. Do you have like ones where you go and you find yourself critiquing it, or is it, or you really like this website because the way you think it's working, or is the ones that you go, oh, they've really messed up there, that's all right, dog's dinner, without throwing
I've done better than that. I've found bugs I've been doing a job, I've been trying to do you know, something, and there's been a bug in the website that's blocked me from doing it. So sometimes I've been able to hack around in the browser to get around the bug to be able to do the thing that I want to do.
Did you report it to them, or did you just happily hack the website?
Well, I won't say I hacked the website. I updated the code to not throw the error. So it's or there could be simple things.
See, I think my dad was like a son like you, because when he gets stuck, he's like, I'm stuck. I'm like, I don't know what to do. He's like, you work on computers.
Oh yeah, we get that all the time. I think
the most common one is probably overlays. Like if someone's put an overlay in the wrong place and it's covering a button or it's doing something weird, you just go in and I just go in and delete it, and then it's not a problem anymore, and then I can press the button and do the thing I want to do.
Yeah, the things that try and make you sign up before you can read the article, but it's just hidden below the page, so you can just delete it.
So, like, I get, because, like, Stapes, consumer side, but, right, like, you've worked in retail, right? Do you find that when you look at more businessy, B2B type apps, or whatever you might be using, that you go, like, that's really good, I love the way they've done, like you sort of bulk upload, or do you go, but because I'm a consumer, I'm much more when I'm being Ryan that isn't Autotrader Ryan. Yeah,
I think I do spot things sometimes. I'm like, oh, that seems really cool and snappy, and I like the way they've implemented. I think an example would be, the way you can bulk upload 100 images to something, whether it's eBay or whatever, and edit them in certain ways, rearrange them, reorder them. Yeah. It just gives you ideas. Like, oh, we never thought of that. That'd be a nice little thing that a retailer for us would benefit from. So you get little ideas here and there. I mean, it's few and far between that. It keeps you up at night.
Stuff like Stapes is there.
Won't call it hacking. I
can't confirm or deny.
Rearranging the stuff.
The reorderer, the rearranger.
Yeah. I mean, it's all there. It doesn't count.
It's on my machine. I've downloaded it onto my machine, so I can do what I want.
Right. I'm not going to let yourself, you know what I mean? He's there trying to go, I'm not hacking it.
Yeah.
So when you look back at, go back, we're going to go backwards and go forwards. But if you go back, is there a particular project, assignments, new technology you've implemented that you go, that was brilliant, like AT-wise, you know what I mean, that I really, I was really excited by or really impressed by? Is there any big moments in the front end history that you go, that was brilliant, we're really glad we went down that path? Mm-hmm. Conversely, is there anything that you go, that really frustrated the hell out of me?
I think for me, for recent years, for the retailer side, we moved to a monorepo architecture, and that's been a game changer for us, because we had back, 5 years ago, separate applications and separate teams working on them, and it all formed part of the portal application as a whole. But you naturally become very siloed and just look after your sort of piece.
Yeah.
And it was hard to sort of think of the wider context of portal. And since we've moved to this monorepo architecture, everybody's working in the same code base. So what it gives you is that sort of visibility of what other people are doing, where you can do some refactoring, where you can pull out common code. It makes keeping on top of that stuff really easy, because I think in the past what we found was ultimately when you finish a project and a product's been built, you move off it. And you have some people maintaining it, you have some automated things which will upgrade packages, but you don't really dig into the code and have eyes on it and improve it. It just kind of stagnates. So now that we're in this monorepo architecture, I think the culture of the people working in it is everybody cares about everything, because it's all part of the same code base. So that's been really good for us. And it's not perfect by any means. I don't think any front end tech is, but I mean, for us, we found it as a massive improvement on the way we worked. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me over recent years.
What about you, Stapes?
We've had quite a few sort of evolutions of how we essentially, and I mean the problem we're trying to solve is we've got various teams all trying to do front end changes at the same time. So I think we've had several iterations of a design system, and I think we're still getting that right, but I think I'd say in the last year or two we've started to have another look at our architecture, have a look at how we deliver change, and especially now we've got the requirement of we need to maintain the journeys in web and apps. So what problems do we have there? Something which we did in my team was we add a lot of copy, which is text within the journey, and we wanted to reuse that across all three platforms. So we've got Android, iOS, and web.
Yeah.
So we created an artifact to do that. So there's quite a few engineering problems to solve in there, but they're all interesting.
Yeah.
I'd say probably the biggest one over the 8 years since I've been here, though, is moving away, well, the opposite of what you just described. So we, in consumer, had this a Java monolith, and the monolith is like a code base with several deployables in, lots of code integrated through, and it was a mixture of old string templating and JavaScript and hard-coded CSS. So I think moving into breaking that out into multiple apps, which is the opposite of what you've done, and we don't get this stuff like perfect. So we're constantly looking at our architecture, and I think we did break up that monolith into too many apps. So we're now trying to consolidate them back through. So it's a continuous evolution and investment in our tech estate. But it's really valuable, and especially when you want to be competitive and be fast-paced, the front end's got to be able to keep up with that.
Yeah.
And the business requirements.
Yeah.
And what about going? So if you're going, right, that's stuff we've done in the past that's dead exciting, or you're proud of, or it's something like you felt as a game changer. What are the things on the horizon? So if you could like go again, we could predict in 5 years' time from a front end perspective, where are the biggest opportunities? So like last year, like one example would be, I think when we re-kicked off, really trying to look at the consumer, the ATDS. That felt like it was a big opportunity that we hadn't looked at for a while, and it was like, we could do more, we could do less. Let's really dig into that. But what do you think of is there anything where you're thinking a few years ahead that's an opportunity, whether it's working with different disciplines in the business or whatever it might be?
For consumer, I think the biggest thing which I'm thinking about at the minute is that logic between web and apps. We do end up writing lots of stuff twice, so it's where you get the balance between reuse between those.
Yeah.
Because they're written in different languages, the apps. We've got, I think that we've probably done another podcast on that.
Yeah, I think we did one with Harriet and Jimmy and crew a while ago.
Yeah, so they solve the issue of how do you deploy between iOS and Android.
Yeah.
And my thinking now is, well, how do you deploy to iOS and Android and web?
Yeah.
And how do you enable it so teams can deploy change to those three things now, not just 2, 3, quickly.
Cool. What about you, Rye?
Nothing massive leaps out. I mean, it's going to sound like a really boring answer, but I think like improving dev experience, I think, is probably something over the next few years we'll probably focus on, because we're quite a mature app now. And there's, like I said before, all the front end tech changes so much. I think TypeScript is rewriting the way they compile stuff, so it's supposed to be like 10 times faster. That sort of thing of reducing build times and being able to deploy code even quicker. I think that's the sort of area that I think I get a bit more enjoyment of. We kind of make people's jobs easier by doing that. I mean, when I first started, if showing my age, I think we shipped software on CD. And then we moved to a model where we actually release software through, actual releases, and it was like monthly, and it was like a 3-hour job, and you came in at 5 a.m. to do it, and there was all sorts of people. Yeah. And now it's, 20 releases a day you can do. We're kind of spoiled. So yeah, maybe going back to that question when I said if someone's going for a front end role now, I'd be telling them how lucky they are that they don't have to have any of this pain. They don't have the release pain. They don't have to worry about Internet Explorer 6 and stuff like that. It's a different world since 10 years ago. Yeah. And it's hard to predict some of the things that are going to happen with it.
Right.
I would caveat that, though, with nowadays you've got to learn a lot of new different technologies. You can hit the ground running with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But if you look online, you look at anyone doing tutorials or anything like that, they will not recommend those things. They'll be like, oh, you need to pick up React, you need to look at deploying it on Vercel, you need to learn this Next.js framework, you need to do all these 10, 15 different things.
Yes, this is where, like you say, it's like new world, there's new challenges, old world, but I think I feel that pain of 5 a.m. releases and things like that. Absolutely awful times.
It sounds like you're surprised that the internet's got opinions.
Anyhow, like all good things, this needs to come to an end, which is a bit unfortunate because could have gone even deeper with some of my harder questions. But I thought, seeing as it'd be a bit unfair, we can do them offline. So cheers for the chat as always, and good to not talk about like mountain bikes and how much we can get on bike to work schemes, because that's like Tom's. God,
There we go. Well done.
Who's that?
States his favourite topic. Thanks to those that tuned in, as always, to this latest episode of Roadmap. So don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you never miss another episode. And follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And cheers to you two.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We're done and dusted. Right, catch you soon.